The courtroom lights warmed slowly to life, casting that familiar glow across the polished wooden bench where Judge Judy would soon sit yet today. Something in the air felt different. Even before the cameras rolled, before the bailiff called the room to order, before a single word was spoken, there was a strange tension that crawled under everyone's skin. People whispered to one another with nervous curiosity, unaware they were seconds away from witnessing a moment that would shatter every expectation of what a courtroom case involving a child could look like, and it all started with a boy who walked in like he owned the place. 12-year-old Tyler Mason strolled through the double doors as if he were entering the VIP section of a concert. His AirPods Max hugged his ears like a crown, his top-tier iPhone lighting up his face while he scrolled through his notifications. And the high-end sneakers he dragged across the floor squeaked just loudly enough to bother anyone paying attention. His entire entrance screamed one thing: he didn't care. But it wasn't just the attitude. It wasn't just the slouch. It wasn't just the expensive gadgets strapped to his body like badges of honor. No, what made this entrance unforgettable was the knowledge of what he had done before this day. Something so reckless, so cruel, so cold, that viewers at home would later replay this episode in complete disbelief. Tyler wasn't here for a misunderstanding. He wasn't here for a childish accident. He was here because he had destroyed a piece of someone's life deliberately, proudly, and worst of all, on camera. The next 8 minutes of this hearing would explode across the internet, hitting 80 million views in less than a week. TikTok stitched it, YouTube reacted to it, and parents everywhere pointed at their screens saying, This is why consequences matter." And at the center of it all stood Judge Judy, sharpened, focused, and more furious than anyone had seen her in years. But the real punch of this story, the part that stunned everyone, wasn't that Tyler lost the case. It wasn't that Judge Judy shouted. It wasn't even that she hit him with consequences he never saw coming. It was how precise she was. Her judgment cut through this boy's ego, like lightning splitting open a dark sky. It crushed the arrogance right out of him. It silenced the smirks, wiped the entitlement off his face, and hit harder than any punishment he had ever escaped in his life. And that was exactly what made this moment legendary. But to understand the storm that was coming, you need to understand the players involved. Tyler Mason was a modern-day chaos machine wrapped in designer labels. At just 12, he carried himself like a celebrity whose time was too valuable for ordinary people. His TikTok account, 50,000 followers strong, was built entirely on mocking adults, trashing rules, and making fun of anyone who dared set boundaries. His mother, Jennifer Mason, had spent the last 3 years trying so hard to be the cool mom that she forgot she was a parent when Tyler insulted teachers. She defended him when he was suspended from school multiple times. She called the school too strict when neighbors complained about his behavior. She insisted they were overreacting. Jennifer wasn't trying to raise a child. She was trying to win his approval, terrified of conflict, terrified of discipline, terrified of becoming the bad guy. She bought him everything he wanted. Phones, sneakers, headphones, gaming consoles, anything to keep him happy, anything to avoid arguments. It worked temporarily, but every gift only fed the monster inside him, and while Jennifer tried to bury the truth with apologies and payouts over $6,700 to neighbors in the past year alone, Tyler's behavior kept escalating. The breaking point arrived in the form of a soft-spoken 72-year-old woman named Eleanor Rodriguez, a retired teacher who lived next door to the Masons. She had spent 3 decades nurturing a breathtaking garden, carefully growing rare rose varieties with origins tied deeply to her life, her late husband, her memories, and her heart. Her garden wasn't just beautiful, it was sacred. Her husband Eduardo planted the first rose bush the week they moved into their home in 1983. He planted the next one the year after, and the next one the year after that. Together, they built a living memorial to their love, 40 years of stories rooted in soil, blooming every spring in colors that made neighbors stop just to admire them. And after Edo died of cancer, That garden became the place where Mrs. Rodriguez spoke to him every morning. 3 hours a day. Every day she watered, pruned, fertilized, and whispered to her husband's memory, keeping him alive in the one place that still bloomed with his touch. But Tyler didn't see meaning. He didn't see love. He didn't see history. He saw content. First, it was tossing garbage over the fence, then bouncing basketballs against the garden wall to disturb her, then filming her secretly, mocking her accent and calling her the weird old neighbor. Jennifer brushed it off every time, but then Tyler escalated from disrespect to destruction. He took a jug of industrial weed, killer meant for clearing construction sites, and poured it over every single rose bush. Every root, every stem, every branch. He recorded it. He laughed while doing it. He posted it online with captions mocking the woman whose heart he was about to break. And the next morning, Mrs. Rodriguez walked into her garden and found 40 years of memories murdered. Her scream woke 3 houses. Her tears soaked the soil that Eduardo had once touched with his own hands. And that video, the one Tyler bragged about, became the very evidence that would drag him into Judge Judy's courtroom. Mrs. Rodriguez, quiet, gentle, and grieving, filed a lawsuit for $3,200, not because the roses could ever be replaced, but because she deserved justice. She had never sued anyone in her life, but this time, she had no choice. What she didn't know was that Judge Judy's research team had dug deeply into this case, deeper than anyone expected. They uncovered every incident Tyler's mother had buried, every school report, every deleted video, every pattern of cruelty that had been ignored for years. So when Judge Judy stepped into her courtroom that day, she didn't just see a 12-year-old who made a mistake. She saw a ticking time bomb of entitlement. She saw a mother who had lost control. She saw a pattern that needed to be broken now, before it became irreversible. The courtroom filled. The cameras blinked on. The bailiff cleared his throat. Mrs. Rodriguez entered with quiet dignity. Tyler slouched in behind her, one AirPod still in his ear, scrolling as if nothing mattered. Jennifer hovered behind him, lips pressed tight with fear and denial. Judge Judy took her seat, her eyes locked on Tyler instantly, and in that first silent second, you could feel it. This wasn't going to be an ordinary case. This was going to be a reckoning. Asterisk. Judge Judy's courtroom felt heavier the moment Aliana stepped back toward the center, as if the air itself tightened around her attitude. But something had changed. Her earlier smugness had cracked, even if she tried to pretend it hadn't. The ripple of the courtroom's whispers followed her like a shadow she couldn't escape. Judge Judy kept her eyes locked on her. "I'm going to ask you once," she said, her tone calm but cutting like a blade. "Are you prepared to speak the truth? Because if you dance around my questions again, you and I are going to have a very unpleasant afternoon." Aliana swallowed. Her voice came out thinner this time. "Yes, I'll answer." "Good," Judy replied. "Because I'm not here to spar with someone who thinks life is a runway. I'm here to figure out why this case is a mess and why you're treating it like background noise." A soft gasp came from the plaintiff's side, and for a second Aliana's eyes darted at her father, as if silently begging him to fix everything with his political influence. But the senator didn't speak. He looked stuck, embarrassed, even helpless. Judge Judy continued, "Let's review the facts. You borrowed your friend Maria's car? She trusted you with it, yes?" Aliana nodded. "You promised to return it the same evening?" "Yes, but not only did you return it late when you finally handed it back, the entire left side was smashed. Do I have that correct?" Aliana hesitated. "It wasn't smashed. It was just dented." Judy leaned forward, squinting. "A dent is what happens when you drop your phone." That car looked like it was attacked by a runaway shopping cart army. Laughter broke out, quick and uncontrollable. Aliana's face turned pink. Judy raised her hand, and the room fell silent instantly. "This isn't funny. This is about responsibility. Something you clearly struggle with." Aliana's jaw tightened, and for the first time a flicker of anger, not arrogance, but frustration crossed her eyes. Judy noticed. "Do you have something you'd like to say?" she asked. Aliana looked down, then up slowly, like someone rehearsing bravery. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she said. And I'm tired of everyone acting like I'm some spoiled child who doesn't care about anything. Judy didn't react immediately. She watched her closely, reading her face like a seasoned detective. Then explain what actually happened, she said. Start from the moment you borrowed the car. Aliana took a breath, deeper than before. I borrowed the car to go to a party, she began. I wasn't planning anything crazy. I just wanted to fit in. Everyone at school, they think I'm only important because of who my father is. So when they invited me, I didn't want to show up looking ordinary. The courtroom listened more quietly this time. So you went to the party, Judy said. And then what? I left earlier than everyone else, Aliana continued. I was driving back. It was late. And I was tired. Really tired. I shouldn't have been driving. Her voice shook lightly at that last sentence, but she kept going. And then I got distracted. My phone kept vibrating. I looked down for 1 second, just one, and when I looked back up, there was a barrier on the road. I swerved. The car hit it. Judge Judy exhaled slowly, disappointment but also understanding in her expression. So it was your fault? Yes, Aliana said softly. All of it? Then why, Judy continued, did you tell your friend it wasn't your fault? Why did you lie? Why did you tell her the car was already damaged when she gave it to you? Aliana froze. The lie was out in the open now, exposed under courtroom lights she could no longer hide from, because, she whispered, I was scared she'd never forgive me. And I wanted to protect my dad. He's already dealing with so much. I didn't want this turning into a headline. The senator's head dropped slightly. He looked heartbroken. Judge Judy turned to him. Sir, you may not speak. But I want you to hear something. Your daughter is not a criminal. She's a young woman who made a series of reckless choices. But none of those choices are fixed by lying. She turned back to Aliana. Responsibility isn't about your family name. It's about your actions. And today, for once, you're owning them. That actually counts for something. The courtroom was silent. Even the air felt still. Maria, the friend who owned the car, wiped her eyes. She had been quietly crying since the story started. You hurt her, Judy said gently but firmly. Not with the accident. Accidents happen. You hurt her by making her feel like you didn't value her trust. Aliana nodded slowly. I know, and I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix the car or the lies, but I am sorry. Maria stepped forward. I just wanted the truth, she whispered. That's all. Judge Judy tapped her pen on the bench. The sharp clicks echoing. Well, she said. Now we have it. Everyone waited for the final blow, but Judy wasn't finished. However, she continued, something still doesn't fit. When the car was inspected, the mechanic reported that the damage was not from a single hit. There were 2 separate impact points. A wave of tension swept across the room. Aliana's breath caught. 2? Yes, Judy said. Which means either you hit something twice, or someone else drove the car after the initial accident. So before I decide the outcome of this case, I need the full truth. Not 60%, not 90%. The full story. Aliana's hands trembled. She looked at her father again. This time his expression wasn't cold or disappointed, it was terrified. Like he already knew what she was about to say. Judy noticed that too. Something you want to add, Miss Aliana? She asked. Aliana closed her eyes. And when she opened them again, they were filled with guilt, so heavy the room felt like it tilted. There was someone else, she said quietly. Someone I promised not to expose. Judge Judy's gaze sharpened like a hawk locking on its prey. Who? She demanded. The courtroom leaned forward, breathless. Aliana swallowed, her voice trembling as she whispered, It wasn't just me who drove the car after the crash. Asterisk, the murmurs in the courtroom swelled like a wave crashing through the room. Even Judge Judy, who had heard every kind of lie, confession, and twist imaginable, leaned forward, narrowing her eyes at Aliana as if trying to see straight into her thoughts. Someone else drove the car. Judy repeated slowly, her tone turning razor sharp. And you conveniently forgot to mention this until now? Aliana nodded weakly. She wasn't arrogant anymore. She wasn't acting like a senator's daughter. She looked like a girl cornered by the truth she'd been running from. Who was it? Judy asked again, each word clipped and controlled. Aliana hesitated, chewing at her lip like she was holding back something explosive. Her father shifted in his seat, stiffening. His jaw clenched. He tried not to make eye contact with anyone. Judge Judy's piercing stare snapped toward him. You look nervous. Sir, she said bluntly. Do you know something about this mystery driver? The senator shook his head, but too quickly, too forcefully. Judy wasn't buying a word of it. She turned back to Aliana. I'm waiting. Aliana's voice cracked. I promised them I wouldn't tell. Judy slammed her hand lightly on the bench. Not enough for drama, just enough to slice through the tension. This isn't a tea party, she snapped. It's a courtroom. Promises you made to protect someone else don't outrank your obligation to the truth. Aliana's breathing sped up. She pressed her palms together like she was holding her own trembling still. Her eyes darted to the back of the courtroom, then at her father, then down at the floor. The weight of the secret was swallowing her. Who? Judy repeated, quieter this time, which somehow made it scarier. Aliana whispered, It was my father. The courtroom erupted. Gasps shot up like fireworks. People twisted in their seats to look at the senator, whose face instantly turned a deep shade of red, not angry red, but the red of someone caught under a spotlight they'd never expected. Judge Judy didn't react. She kept her gaze locked on him, unblinking. Is that true? She asked. The senator opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His lips moved, but the words died. Let me rephrase, Judy said. Did you drive the car after the accident? A long, suffocating silence stretched across the room. Finally, the senator exhaled sharply. I was trying to protect her, he said, his voice strained. Judge Judy sat back slightly. Explain. He rubbed his forehead, defeated. She came home crying, terrified, panicking. She told me she crashed the car. I told her I'd handle it. I went to check the damage myself. I drove it to a friend's repair shop to see if we could fix it quietly. His voice cracked. On the way, I hit a curb, hard, the second impact. Judy blinked once, slowly. So you damaged the car further? Yes. And then you told your daughter to lie? No, the senator replied immediately. She lied on her own. I just didn't correct her. Judy stared at him as if she were trying to decide whether to laugh or explode. You didn't correct her? She repeated. You let this entire mess unfold, lawsuit and all, because you thought silence was the same as innocence? The senator lowered his head. He knew he had no defense. Maria looked stunned, betrayed in a new way. So both of you knew? She said softly, tears forming again. Both of you hid it from me. Aliana shook her head desperately. I didn't want him involved. I didn't want anyone to blame him. Judy's voice dropped to a quieter but far more piercing tone. Your father is a grown man. He doesn't need you protecting him, especially not with lies. Aliana's eyes overflowed. It wasn't arrogance anymore. It was guilt, raw and unfiltered. The illusion of the perfect senator's family had shattered. Judy turned to the senator. Do you realize your interference made this case 10 times more complicated? If you had done nothing, this would have been a simple accident claim. Instead, you added more damage, more confusion, and now your daughter is drowning in guilt trying to shield you. The senator swallowed hard. His eyes glistened. I know. And I'm sorry. For what? Judy pressed. For the damage or for the lie? For making her afraid to tell the truth, he said in a whisper. Aliana turned toward him quickly, her voice breaking. Dad, I wasn't afraid of you. I was afraid of disappointing you. That sentence cut through the room like a blade. Judge Judy's expression softened just a fraction, but she stayed firm. Let me tell you something both of you need to hear, she said. Honesty doesn't destroy relationships. Lies do. And when parents force themselves into their children's mistakes instead of teaching them, the lesson gets buried under shame. Aliana wiped her eyes. The senator looked shattered. Judy continued. Now let's get back to the legal matter at hand. The car was damaged twice. First by Aliana, second by her father. And Maria has been strung along with half-truths and evasions while dealing with the cost. Maria nodded shakily. I didn't want drama. I just wanted my friend back. And my car fixed. Aliana suddenly broke down fully, tears streaming. Maria, I'm so sorry. I was stupid. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to ruin everything. Maria stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. You didn't have to lie. That's what ruined everything. The room grew still again as Judge Judy rose slightly from her seat, leaning her hands on the bench. What we have here, she said, is a tangled mess created by fear and pride. But now the truth is finally out. That means I can make a decision. Asterisk, everyone leaned in, breath held. But before I do, she added, I want one more answer. She turned to Aliana. When your father took the car to the repair shop, why didn't you tell him to stop? Why didn't you insist on handling your own mistake? Aliana hesitated, then whispered something that made the entire courtroom fall silent. Because he told me the scandal would ruin his career. And I thought if people blamed me instead of him, it would be better. Judge Judy froze. The senator's eyes widened with horror. Aliana, no, I never meant, but the damage was done. The truth, the real truth, was out, and Judge Judy's face hardened in a way that sent chills through the room. This case, she said slowly, is no longer just about a damaged car. The entire courtroom held its breath. Now it's about accountability, she continued, locking eyes with both of them. And neither of you is done answering for your actions. Asterisk, the courtroom felt electrified, as if every breath carried a spark waiting to explode. Judge Judy's silence stretched so long it made the senator shift in his seat, guilt pressing down on him like a weight he couldn't escape. Finally she spoke. Both of you allowed fear to dictate your actions. Fear of consequences. Fear of scandal. Fear of each other. But the truth isn't a weapon unless you treat it like one. Aliana's lips trembled. Her father stared straight ahead, no longer a powerful senator, just a father drowning in regret. Judge Judy sighed deeply. I want to hear the rest from you, she said to the senator. Did you tell your daughter her mistake could end your career? He shook his head slowly, then stopped and nodded conflicted, ashamed. I didn't say it directly, but I implied it. I told her we needed to avoid any attention. I told her the timing was bad, that people were waiting for reasons to attack me politically. So you let her carry the blame for something you also made worse? Judy said flatly. The senator swallowed. I thought I was protecting her, but I see now I was protecting myself. Maria looked heartbroken. So all of this happened because both of you cared more about hiding the truth than fixing the damage? Aliana whispered, I didn't care about the car. I cared about everything falling apart. The room softened for a moment. Not with sympathy, just understanding that Judge Judy wasn't done. Maria, she said, turning her attention. I want you to step forward. Maria wiped her tears and approached timidly. Did you ever ask Aliana for money to fix the car? No, Maria said. I waited for her to explain what happened. She kept avoiding the conversation. I tried being patient, but it hurt seeing her pretend everything was fine when she was clearly hiding something. Judy nodded. And did she ever offer to repair it? Maria glanced at Aliana. She said she would, eventually, but it felt like an empty promise, like she was hoping I'd forget. Aliana covered her face with her hands. I wasn't hoping you'd forget, I just couldn't fix it without admitting everything. Judy lifted her eyebrow. You were willing to sacrifice your entire friendship to protect a lie? Aliana nodded, tears falling again. I thought if she hated me for lying, it would be easier than her finding out what really happened. Judge Judy leaned back. Well, congratulations. You managed to break the trust anyway. The senator closed his eyes briefly, guilt tightening his expression. A long silence filled the room before Aliana spoke again, voice trembling but clearer than before. I know I messed up. I know my father messed up too, but I didn't want him to be dragged into something small and stupid because of me. Judy's tone sharpened. This would never have become something big if you had told the truth from day one. Lies grow like weeds. They choke everything around them. And now look, your friend is hurt, your father is exposed, and you're standing here falling apart because you didn't trust honesty to be enough. Aliana sniffed but didn't argue. Judge Judy turned to the senator. You are an elected official. People rely on your judgment. Yet you couldn't teach your own daughter one basic lesson: own your mistakes. The senator bowed his head. You're right. And, Judy added, you pressured her into protecting your image instead of being honest. That is not leadership. That is fear dressed up as authority. He didn't speak again. Judy shifted her gaze between the two of them. Now, I'm going to ask both of you something very simple. Do you understand the damage you've done? Not to the car. To each other? Aliana nodded slowly. Yes, her father spoke barely above a whisper. Yes, completely. Maria's eyes softened, even though she was still hurt. Good, Judy said. Because we're about to deal with the consequences. She held up the file, tapping it lightly. The total cost of repairing the car is documented here. $4,300. That includes both impacts. And legally, both of you are liable. The senator glanced at Aliana in shock. Both? Yes, Judy said. You damaged it after the first crash. You knowingly interfered with evidence. And you allowed your daughter to shoulder the blame alone. You will pay your share. Aliana looked terrified. I don't have that kind of money. You're not paying the full amount, Judy cut in. You're responsible for the original damage. Your father is responsible for the second. The senator nodded instantly. I'll pay everything. No, Judy said sharply. You will pay your portion. She will pay hers. That's the only way she learns. Aliana's shoulders sagged, relieved and regretful at the same time. Maria finally spoke. Judge, I didn't want money to come between us. I just wanted the truth. You're getting both, Judy replied. The truth now, and the compensation later. Then something rare happened. Judy softened her voice in a way she didn't do often. Aliana, she said gently, you're not a bad person. You're a scared young woman who let fear guide her instead of honesty. But fear is a terrible navigator. Aliana's tears returned. I know. And you, Judy said to the senator, need to understand that being a parent means being strong enough to let your child learn from their mistakes, not shielding them with secrecy that only multiplies the damage. The senator nodded slowly. I hear you. Good, Judy said. Because there's one last thing this case needs. Everyone looked up, tense again. An apology, Judy said. A real one. From both of you. Not rushed. Not rehearsed, honest. Aliana turned to Maria, voice breaking but steady enough. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I made you think your trust didn't matter to me. You're the only real friend I have, and I ruined that. If you don't forgive me, I'll understand. But I promise I'll pay what I owe, and I promise I'll never lie to you again. Maria wiped her tears, visibly torn. She didn't speak yet. Then the senator stepped forward, voice shaking. Maria, I'm sorry I made this worse. I should have taught my daughter honesty by example. Instead, I taught her fear. I hope you'll forgive her, even if you can't forgive me. Maria didn't move for a long moment. Then she stepped forward and hugged Aliana. The courtroom gasped. Even Judge Judy's expression softened. Maria whispered, I just wanted you back. Aliana sobbed into her shoulder. I'm so sorry. Judge Judy cleared her throat. Now that the emotional storm has passed, let's finalize the judgment. Everyone stood still, but Judy wasn't finished. There is still one more truth, she said quietly. A truth neither of you has spoken yet. Aliana and her father froze. The courtroom went silent again. The real question now, Judy continued slowly, is why both of you were so terrified of the truth. Something deeper is hiding under this story. The room froze as Judge Judy's words hung in the air like a dropped hammer. Aliana stiffened. The senator's breath caught visibly in his throat. Even Maria, still wiping away tears, sensed something, shift something deeper than the car, deeper than the lies. deeper than everything they'd already confessed. Judge Judy leaned forward. You didn't lie just to avoid trouble. You lied because you thought the truth would destroy something. What exactly? Were you afraid of losing? Aliana looked panicked again. I already told you. I didn't want to embarrass my dad. That's not the full story, Judy replied, voice low and sharp. You weren't just afraid of embarrassing him. You were afraid he would stop being proud of you. Aliana froze like she'd been struck. Her father's shoulders dropped, his face cracking open pain, guilt, and something deeper flickering through him. He whispered, Aliana, is that true? She swallowed. Her voice broke in half. Every time something small goes wrong, you act like the world is ending. And every time something happens in your life, it becomes front page news. I didn't want to be another headline. I didn't want to be the reason people pointed at you and said, another scandal, another mistake. I don't want you to be ashamed of me. Her father blinked, stunned. Ashamed? I've never been ashamed of you. You get disappointed, she whispered. And that's worse. The senator's expression crumbled. His gaze fell to the floor, then slowly rose again. I never wanted you to feel that way. I never wanted you to think you needed to be perfect. But that's how it feels, Aliana said, voice trembling. Like there's no room for mistakes. Like I have to be flawless because you have to look flawless. And if I slip even once, everything falls. Judge Judy let that sink in. She didn't rush to speak. She let the silence do the work. Parents, she finally said, don't realize the pressure they put on their children. Sometimes they think they're guiding, but what they're really doing is building cages made out of expectations. The senator blinked rapidly, fighting emotions he never showed in public. I thought I was protecting her, he whispered. No, Judy said. You were protecting your image, and she was protecting you. He bowed his head as if the truth finally hit him with full force. Asterisk, Aliana continued, more tears falling. I didn't lie because I wanted to. I lied because I thought that was the only way to keep you proud of me. I didn't want to be another problem in your career. I didn't want people to think you raised a reckless daughter. Her father's eyes filled. Aliana, you are not a problem. You're my daughter. And you, Judy said sharply to the senator, should have told her that a long time ago. He nodded. You're right. Judy wasn't finished. You put so much pressure on her to behave perfectly that the moment she made a mistake, she panicked. She hid. She spiraled. Because she was terrified you would love her less. The senator covered his face for a moment, breathing hard. When he lowered his hand, he looked at Aliana not as a senator, not as a man trying to control the situation, but simply as a father. I'm sorry, he said softly. I'm sorry I made you feel like your mistakes made you unworthy. You're my daughter. I don't care about headlines. I care about you. Aliana took a shaky step toward him. I didn't want you to be disappointed. I didn't want to let you down. You didn't let me down, he whispered. This whole mess happened because I didn't show you that you could trust me with your truth. Judge Judy gave them a long look. Good. Now we're finally dealing with the real issue. Maria stepped closer too, voice gentle. You didn't have to face all of this alone, Ali. I wish you trusted me sooner. Aliana wiped her cheeks. I know. I'm sorry I pushed you away. And Maria added quietly, I'm not going anywhere. I just want honesty. The tension in the room slowly shifted, heavier emotions giving way to something softer, something wounded but healing. Judge Judy took a breath, then tapped her pen on the bench. This case is no longer about punishment. It's about learning, and growth, and accountability. And now that the truth is fully out, I can give my ruling. Everyone straightened. Aliana, Judy said firmly, you are responsible for the initial accident. You will pay your share of the damages. Not because I want to punish you, but because facing consequences makes us stronger, not weaker. Aliana nodded quickly. I understand. And I will. Good, Judy said. She turned her gaze to the senator. And you, sir, will pay for the second damage. And you will not try to hide behind your position again. Your daughter needs a father more than the public needs a perfect senator. He nodded solemnly. Yes, Judge. Judge Judy tapped the file one final time. Maria will receive the full amount in compensation. Case settled. But before the bailiff could call the next case, Judy spoke again, her voice softer, but powerful enough to settle into everyone's memory. Let me leave you with one truth, she said. Mistakes don't define who we are. How we respond to them does. And you both of you finally chose honesty today. That's what matters. The senator looked at his daughter with a fragile smile, unsure, hopeful. Aliana stepped into his arms and hugged him tightly, really tightly, for the first time in months. He held her just as tightly, as if scared she might slip away again. Maria stood beside them, relieved, emotional, but smiling faintly, for the first time since the case began. The tension in the courtroom melted. Judge Judy watched them silently for a moment. She didn't smile, she rarely did, but something softened in her expression. A flicker of approval. A flicker of hope. Then she simply said, "We're done here." The bailiff called the next case, and as Aliana, Maria, and the senator walked out of the courtroom less broken, more honest, and closer than before, they carried with them the one thing that had been missing from the start: the truth, the real truth, the truth that finally set them free.